Okay, so this is absolutely take one. It will not, I'm sure, be the final product. But here we go. We've got the setup. We got the camera stand and the ambiance. And we have the cat in the background. So, hey everyone. Welcome to my very first video on my YouTube channel, Artists and Oracles. Thanks so much for watching. I thought I would introduce myself first of all, tell you just a smidge about me, and then I'm going to dive in and start by doing a tarot tag, an older tag. It's several months old. I'm not quite sure how old now, but I thought that would be a fun way and an easy way to start. And it's a tag I really love. I've given a lot of thought to, and it's kind of morphed as I've sat with it for a while. So anyway, my name is Donna. And I've been hanging around TarotTube for only about 2 years now, right about 2020, just before the world as we know it got really strange and surreal, and many of us stayed home for a long time, longer than we ever had. And tarot is something that I have loved for a couple of decades now, but really always felt like I was dabbling in tarot, that I never really took the time to study it. I have a lot of spiritual interest, and I've done a lot of spiritual study over the years, and tarot kind of always somehow got sidelined. But I would accumulate decks here and there and always sort of mean to study it. And so around about 2018, I really was getting the nudge, like, you need to do this, you need to study tarot, you need to get into it. Same for 2019, didn't happen. Then 2020 happened, and I thought, now is finally the time. And right about then, I discovered that there was this universe online called TarotTube with all these amazing people from all around the world talking about their passions about tarot and oracle cards. And it was just incredible. It was just such fun to discover that. And the timing was divine, as timing always is. But it was a real godsend for me to find everyone online. So at the start, I just want to say hello to all of you wonderful tarot tubers who I've been hanging around your channels for a couple of years, writing comments, jumping on your lives. Here I am. Here's my face. Here's my presence, my being. Here I am in my home office with a bunch of decks. And the hashtag I'm going to do is only 10 decks. Only 10 decks for tarot and oracle. And when I first started jotting notes and thinking like, what would I choose? How would I do this? I found it excruciating, to just even choose 10. And I thought, I can't do it. And I actually have different versions, which I may put up. One is only 10 tarot and one is only 10 oracle. But for today, to start out, I'm going to play by the rules. And this is literally, as of this morning, I updated my list, sat with it again, and it changed by several decks. So this is hot off the presses for 2/22/2022. Such an amazing day. I'm also inspired by the numerology of this day to jump in and do this video, at least film it today, even if it doesn't make it up online, but to be in the energy of this powerful portal day. So here we go. I guess I'm going to keep going. I thought this was a trial run, but so far so good. Maybe I don't want to edit, so I'm going to try to do this all in one sitting. Okay, my number one. So I'm going to start with tarot. My number one tarot deck would absolutely be the Texture Tarot. I've only owned this deck for a year, probably not even. Discovered it online from one of you and agonized for a while and jumped in and ordered it. I love this deck. I think I love it mainly because it's a toss between either the colors or because it's a collage deck. I am also a collage artist myself. I didn't do the introduction. I'll just weave things in as we go. So one of the things about me is I'm a collage artist. The other thing is I work with color a lot. I have always deeply loved color since I was a little child. And the first way I choose a deck is color. I have sort of an instant knowing. Within a few seconds, I can see a deck, even if it's online. That was Mira, the cat, exiting stage left. Hopefully she'll come back and make an appearance. But I literally can see someone hold up a deck on their channel, online, whatever, and I just have this sort of knowing whether the colors are for me or not, the palette, the overall feeling of the deck. So, hold the cards up, Donna, so they can see. So, this, I just love the soft kind of pastel-y colors of this deck. I love that it's collage art. I love a lot about it. The only thing that I find challenging is the cardstock, but I remind myself all the time that the cardstock is challenging because it's actually cardstock that's really good for the earth. It has a lot less plastic in it. And I really admire that about the creator, that she was willing to do that. But it is kind of chunky and you can't really riffle shuffle it. And it makes it a big deck for my small hands, but I have just learned to love it anyway. And to just, be willing to shuffle slower. It makes me be more mindful, shuffle more gently. I'm putting cards in my lap and they're falling between my legs, so I'm learning all of this. This is literally take one. Anyway, Texture Tarot. So that's enough of that. Okay, deck number 2 for me is the Marielle. Marielle, second version. I have the first edition of the Marielle. And I found that a couple months before I discovered Tarot Tube and all of these things. And I remember so specifically, I was so drawn to that deck. I just think I found it on eBay or something. And I had this knowing of like, wow, you need to get that deck. It's a little scary, but get it anyway. So I had it for a while and I would just sort of flip through it and I couldn't do much with it. I found it very intimidating. But then I found out about the second edition, I don't know, sometime last year. And I'm so glad I got it because it's smaller. It fits my hands better. I like the cardstock so much better. I know there's all the deal about the changed cards and all of that. I get it for people who had that deck a long time and they prefer the first edition, but I really prefer this edition. I never really fell in love with the first edition, and I got this one, and it just, tactile wise, I can shuffle it. This is my edition. I have a lot more study to do with this deck. It's you could spend years learning this deck, but that's okay. I know that I will, and I love it, and I use it sparingly. I can't describe, but I don't use it for every day, but it's a real trusted deck and I would want to have it with me. So that's deck number 2. Deck number 3 would be the Thoth. This is my big version. The notable thing about this deck is that this is the very first deck I trimmed. And I will have to tell just a kind of funny little aside here that when I first came onto TarotTube, I very shortly heard everyone talking about modding their decks. And I was like, what? People cut up their decks and trim them and add... For months, I just thought, I'm never going to do that. What is the deal with that? I had real judgment around that. And then finally one day, I don't know what happened, but I realized, oh, some decks are too big for my hands. That would be a really good reason to mod a deck. So I jumped in, and this is the very first deck I modded. And all I did was just cut by hand with scissors from the back and got rid of those white borders so it fits my hands a little better. And I like how the images look with this. So this is the Thoth. Most people know that deck. Again, another deck that I need to study for a few more decades. Still find it pretty intimidating. Won't read for really anyone but myself and a couple of close friends with it. But I would want to have the original Thoth with me. I think it's a key deck for me. Deck number 4, tarot deck number 4 of the 10 would be of course, an RWS. Well, not of course, not for everybody, but for me. And this I agonized about a little bit because honestly, I don't know, I have a tricky relationship with the RWS. I mean, it is the very first deck I ever had. I was gifted a small copy of an RWS. So it is my introduction to tarot, but again, the color palette does not do it for me. So I spent a lot of, I don't know, either 2020 and the beginning of 2021 hunting around looking for a kind of classic RWS clone with colors that would really work for me. And finally I settled on this, which is the Albano Waite. This is just the current one that's in print. I know the vintage ones are probably even more gorgeous color-wise, I hear, but this is good enough for now. So this would be my standard RWS that I would take with me, mainly for reference, just because oftentimes when I'm studying a card, I do want to go back to the, to the original and really look at that image and understand it, and then compare it to a more modern version of an RWS deck. So that's what that would be. Albano Waite. Number 4. Number 5, this changed as of this morning, but I feel good about this. So number 5, my last tarot deck that would go with me would be the Kazanlar. To me, this is one of it is the most beautiful deck I've ever seen. I just think it's absolutely glorious. There's the colors. I love that it's an ecumenical deck. It covers cultures from around the world. This is just a very, very magical deck. And I have Simon to thank for this on the Hermit's Cave. This is where I first saw this deck. And I literally took one look at it and thought, what is that? I need that deck. I don't think any other deck has quite grabbed me like this deck has. And it took some finding, some hunting and waiting and patience to find a copy that was reasonably priced, because this version is out of print, but it's actually back in print now. FYI, for people that are interested in this deck, you can find it through the creator online. So anyway, the Kazanlar Tarot, again, a lot of study needed. Mine came without a little white book. It came with a large book in German, which I do not speak. So I just have someone gave me an electronic copy, which is great to have, but not so convenient. So it's been hard to study this deck, but I will. And I would take this along with me. This is a beautiful deck, and it just, again, it's smaller, fits my hands. Oh, just like such a joy to shuffle, which I'm not going to do too much because we'll drop them or whatever. On camera is tricky. Okay, so those are the 5 tarot. Moving along. How am I doing? 12 minutes, 13 minutes. Okay, not too bad. I hope you're still with me. I hope you're enjoying this. Okay, so deck number 6. Moving on to Oracle decks. This deck is my baby. Again, a newer deck. A lot of these decks are new just in the last year to 2 years because of the current situation. So I don't know if I found this 2020 or 2021, but I know that ever since I had it, I use it constantly. It's my go-to deck, not just Oracle, like tarot. On a regular, not necessarily daily, but definitely weekly basis, I will pull from this deck. It lives right here on my decks beside me. On those days, if I just have a couple minutes and I want a little guidance before I go out and do something, this is the deck I grab. I highly recommend it to anyone who identifies as an HSP, highly sensitive person, certainly as an empath, to just spiritual people in general. It's a beautiful deck. It's gentle and yet very deep. The book that goes with it is so well written. The cards are simple and yet vast. It's a lovely, lovely deck, and it has given me, every time, it gives me amazing readings. Usually one card pulls. I ask a question. I try to always ask a pretty clear question, and it's just amazing the way it lands for me. So this is a must. And the other funniest side I'll tell you as I'm putting this away, getting the next deck, is that another thing I noticed for the first year or so is people talking about their backup decks. I thought, I are you kidding me? Backup deck, like, you know, again, I couldn't comprehend. And then one day, all of a sudden, I don't know, someone said something on TarotTube and it hit me. I want a backup deck of this deck because I don't ever want to be without this deck. So this is the very first deck that I have a backup copy of. Empathic, and the Empathic Oracle. I was going to tell you guys all who these decks are by, but I'm blowing it on that. You know what? I'm not going to try to do that because too complicated. Glasses on, glasses off for that. Can't do it. So anyway, second deck, this is actually number 7, but second Oracle deck would be the Faceted Garden Oracle by, here I'll try, Claire Mack, the wonderful Claire Mack. Such a wonderful deck creator. Again, I really love this deck. It's a close second this past year with the Empathic Oracle, and often I pull together. You know, I pull one from Empathic and then I pull from this deck. They live kind of right next to each other on the shelf here. They're very happy together, and I just love it. I love the artwork. I love the color palette of this deck. I love the cardstock. I love the feel in the hand, the shuffle. Oh, I adore this deck. So I use this a lot. I would want this to go with me. I have her other Oracle, and I really love that too. I don't know what happened. I had the other Oracle first, and somehow this just kind of like forged ahead. And it's been a steady favorite for months and months now. So as of right now, this would have to make the cut of the 10, the Faceted Garden by Claire Mack. Okay. Next up would be, oh, okay, this is another, I love all these decks. It's so fun. The Big 10. So next for me under Oracle would be this deck, the Mystical Shaman Oracle. This I've had for a few years, longer than most of the decks I'm showing you today. So I have a longer, kind of richer bond with this deck. I've done a fair amount of shamanic studies myself. I have some other shamanic decks. There's a bunch of wonderful decks out. Really love all of them, but if I were forced to choose only 10 decks for the rest of my life to take with me, there is no doubt that this would make the list. No doubt. Again, just spot on reader. I love the art. I love the color palette. I love how multiculturally shamanic this deck is. Yeah, it's just amazing. You know, so this is a Colette Baron Reed deck with Alberto Vialdo and Marcella, I always forget her name, Lobos. So together those three creators made this deck, but beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I shall work on my card flipping skills as I talk to you, but anyway, I love this deck. It's a Hay House deck. It's big, it's a little chunky for those of us with small hands, but it's a great reader. So that would come, no doubt. Okay, that was number 8. So now we're up to number 9. Number 9 was very hard, the hardest one, harder than number 10. You'll see why. Number 10 is last. So I agonized about this today and kept changing and changing and changing. And I'll pick one, but then I think I'm going to show you like the runners-up that didn't quite make it. So the one I guess I would ultimately choose as of today, it's a real toss-up, I don't know. But I think I'll go with this one because I've had this deck a long time. It's so sweet. It's very novel. It lives in this little basket on my desk with a cover. I don't know if anybody knows this deck. I never see it around, but it's called the Dolphin Divination cards. Really tiny little round cards. I have the full deck that goes with it. It's a good sized deck. Oh, I can show you the book. It's right here. So it's a full size, you know, paperback book, and each card has like at least 2-3 page write-up on it. And the reason I love this deck, I mean, it's not really practical to use, even for small-handed people. It's a little tricky to shuffle, but you know, it's just one word or phrase. But for those of us who love the water element, identify with dolphins, you know, love ocean, all those things, this is such a, it's a wonderful deck when you know you need dolphin energy. You need to feel lighter, you're hunkered down, you know, getting into the dark side. You know, I just pick a little dolphin card and like, here's new light body, and then read the write-up in the book, and it's just wonderful. Things like networking, and everything is from the dolphin's perspective, but then made useful for humans. Things that you associate with dolphins, like prey, predators, you know, dealing with predators, nurturing the young. It's really wonderful. I don't know if it's in print anymore. I haven't seen it around, but I think this would go with me. This is as of today. And I'll just mention quickly before I do number 10, the close calls for that coveted spot of number 9 would be the Creativity Oracle by Amy Zerner, mainly because it's by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber, because her what's the name of her tarot deck? I'll think of it. You know what I mean. Her classic tarot deck was one of the very first decks. I think it was the first deck I ever bought myself, tarot deck I bought myself. So I have a really fond connection with that deck and her as a creator. She's a fabric artist, but her work is very collage-like, which I love. The tarot deck didn't make the cut just because, for practical reasons, I don't read with it much. So again, if I were choosing only 10, I wouldn't bring it. This is a new deck to me in the last year, but I love that it's all about creativity. I love the colors of it. It's a bit chunky, and I haven't used it much, but I feel like I will. So that was a close runner-up for the spot. And then the other thing I considered was to put a tarot deck in that I use more like an oracle, but have a lot of respect for and reads brilliantly for me, and that's Tarot of the She. And I also modded this deck recently and fits my hands much better now, and edged it. And so I don't know. So given how the winds were blowing on the day that I had to prepare my bag of 10 decks and head for the hills, I don't know, I might grab this one. Or, you know, I probably would cheat and like grab this, tuck in the little dolphin deck, and stuff in, you know, whatever couple extras I could do. But anyway, trying to play by the rules. So there's a couple fun ones to share as well. And then number 10 would be, for me, my own deck that I created years ago. And it's a laminated version. So these are color copies of original collages that I've made. And I've worked with these for years. I read for myself from them. I've read for people, friends, clients, all manner of people. They work better in person than they do over video because they are laminated, so super glossy. But I'll just show you a few to give you a feel for it. I think that goes that way. And I have, I don't know, over 100 of these. I just grabbed a few to show, but if I were only having to choose 10 decks, I would certainly want to bring my own deck along, even though it's been very neglected the last 2 years because I have been deep diving into all these other new amazing decks on the market. But I forced myself to include it on the list because these are my works, and along with me they would come. So there you have it. Thanks for listening and showing up, and I will see you guys all again. And just a little aside here at the end to tell you what my channel is going to be about based on the title. Maybe you're wondering or have some ideas, but I really want to have all kinds of conversations with people who either identify as artists or, you know, are oracle readers of whatever form, tarot, oracle. I want to really talk about what it is that draws those of us to the cards, you know, those of us who really are passionate or consider ourselves collectors or even just readers. What is that all about for you? And I want to explore the connection between art, specifically color and texture, and being a person who works with oracle cards, tarot cards, and have some conversations about that. So if that interests you, stay tuned, because that is what I'm going to be up to on this channel. I'm going to be inviting people on to come and talk with me, and just you know, coming up with different topics to talk to all of you about as well. So that's it for now. See you guys around TarotTube. Take care.